What's going on? This is Giancarlo Nadeau with Breakaway Coverage, a brand new episode for you. I'm absolutely delighted to be speaking with Lauren Runge, the athletic therapist for the Coastal Tsunami in the Pacific Junior Hockey League. She's also the athletic therapist and kinesiologist at Coastline Health. Thank you, Lauren, for joining me. How's everything going?
Good. Thanks for having me, GC.
It's going to be a pleasure. I'm so excited to be speaking with you. Let's go back to where it all began. Where were you born? Where did you grow up?
I was born in Toronto, grew up in Collingwood, Ontario. So, yeah,
I mean, my next question for you is why hockey? But I mean, it's pretty much, already right there, given the fact you just said you're from Ontario.
exactly. Yeah, I have two older brothers, so I was around the rink a lot. And just, I like the culture that hockey kind of tries to have with, respecting people and being leaders in the community. So that's yeah, why I like hockey.
Can I take a guess and say the Maple Leafs are your favorite NHL team?
Yep. I mean, I do like the Canucks living in Vancouver, but definitely growing up, I was always watching Saturday night in Canada or Hockey Night in Canada on Saturday nights and watching the Leafs for sure.
What about a favorite NHL player?
Ooh, that's a great question. I'd have to say probably Matt Sundin or Sidney Crosby.
And this one might be a little tougher just based on the fact that it didn't really exist when you were growing up. But what about a female in hockey? Was there anybody that you kind of looked to?
Haley Wickenheiser, for sure.
Sure. That's a great answer. And with the Four Nations face-off just concluding a couple weeks ago, they brought up one of the Haley Wickenheiser clips on Instagram there, and it was pretty funny to see that. She's somebody that really represented female hockey as best as she could in her country. So, you know what? That's a great choice. And I think in the next couple of years, you're going to have a lot more people saying Haley Wickenheiser. You're going to have a lot more people knowing who she is and also who the other females are. So I'm really excited to kind of, see the evolution of women in hockey. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Let's talk about obstacles though, because I don't know a female in hockey that hasn't had to face certain obstacles just simply because they are a female. So are there any for you that you've had to face so far?
Like being like as an athletic therapist or
As an
as a
athletic therapist, or do you find, that females have a harder time in the sport itself?
yes, definitely. I think most females feel very judged when doing sports because they don't want to be seen as, you know, as tough or like having an ego. But I think it is good to have a little bit of an ego, even though sometimes, as an athletic therapist dealing with the opposite gender, it can be a bit hard to navigate. But it's yeah, it's definitely good to have a little bit of competitiveness.
More and more females are starting to play roles in hockey. You're seeing the Pacific, Women's Hockey League, the PWHL, taking massive strides. Do you think it's becoming a more accepting and welcoming place, the actual hockey culture and hockey environment for females?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Even though there's not many like athletic therapists who are on the benches in professional hockey, at least, there are lots of women who are in like more supporting roles in professional hockey. And yeah, I think it's definitely the PWHL has definitely helped, I think, with kind of breaking that barrier for sure.
You mentioned growing up how much you loved watching Haley Wickenheiser and hearing about her. Was there an
Mhm.
athletic therapist, a female athletic therapist that you could look up to when you were growing up?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, Not that I can remember, but through my schooling and just kind of getting into the industry, there's definitely a few who I can mention off the top of my head. Like, there's two females who were in the CFL who were head athletic therapists. One was with Hamilton and the other with Ottawa. And I got to know the one from Hamilton because she was a TA for our classes, which was pretty cool. So she kind of was able to give us some insight into that. So, which kind of made me want to pursue a more professional career.
No, it's really incredible to see, and hear who has had an impact on an individual to get them to where they are. For you growing up, there really wasn't a lot of females in hockey. Nowadays, when you talk to, a younger person, not that you're older or anything, but when you talk to like a little kid growing up and they say, I want to be an athletic therapist because I go to a PWHL game and there's an athletic therapist on the bench that I can see and I can, relate with. Um,
Mhm.
for you not really having somebody like that, what inspired you to get into hockey and what just inspired you overall to become an athletic therapist?
Um, that's a great question. I always loved sports and watching sports and participating, and I also like helping people. And so athletic therapy kind of combined those two passions, and just kind of figuring out how the body works, and it was pretty fun to learn about.
Awesome. Obviously, you just spent the last season on the Sunshine Coast with the Coastal Tsunami, but there is a PWHL team in your town, Toronto Scepters. Do you get a chance to watch any of their games or any games in the league in its entirety?
I haven't yet. Yeah, just been pretty busy, but definitely would love to catch a game for sure.
Let's talk a little bit about the Coastal Tsunami. What drew you over to the Sunshine Coast?
There was a lot of back and forth, but just the job opportunity and experience. I really wanted a good split between like clinic and with a sports team, and this job opportunity offered me that. Being part-time with the Tsunami and then part-time at Coastline Health and Performance. Um, and it definitely kind of with the ferry, I had to really wrap my head around if the experience was going to be worth kind of the headache of the ferry, but it has worked out so far, I would say.
Awesome. And you certainly did a great job getting the chance to work with you and see that firsthand. There's also a lot of females in the Pacific Junior Hockey League already. You take a look at, teams like Langley, Abbotsford, Surrey, Chilliwack, all
Mhm.
these teams with female trainers, and I'm sure I'm missing a few of them as well. But is it a more welcoming place for you to be knowing that there's other females in the league doing exactly what you're doing?
Definitely. Yeah. Just having kind of that camaraderie, especially, when you're at games and you're going to meet the other therapist to talk about, the emergency action plan, and just having another female is really nice, especially being surrounded by boys and guys. It's nice to have a female face and presence
I
for
brought
sure.
up a couple teams. I'm not sure how I forgot this one, but of course, North Vancouver also has a female trainer. So we'll send some
Yeah.
love to the Wolfpack. Lauren, there's a couple stats I just want to bring up with you here. It's Eating Disorders Awareness Week, February 24th to March 2nd. I just want to bring some stats up with you and just kind of get your thoughts on them. Eating disorders amongst girls, they rose from 60% in 2017 to 77% in 2023. Young women, they're almost twice as likely to have a possible eating disorder than a young man is. And the last stat here, 61% of girls tell us that they are judged when doing sport or exercise. Being a female yourself and being in sports, can you relate to that? And what are your thoughts on that?
That's a great question. And yeah, that's definitely a hard topic to discuss because there's a lot of different factors that kind of go into eating disorders. And I think the biggest thing is sometimes when women are doing sports or exercising, like they might feel, yeah, judged or like ob almost objectified. And some women are kind of uncomfortable with that. And so it's kind of hard to break that kind of mentality. Um, and but I think, yeah, it's definitely a hard question for sure. I don't like, yeah, I don't
No,
know
I
anybody.
appreciate you taking a chance on that question and answering it as honestly as you could. It's obviously it's a big question to be asked and to answer. So I appreciate you answering it. It is tough. I mean, this is the first time for me where I'm really witnessing females in sports. I've never really seen that growing up. I never really seen that where I've worked either. Of course, I've only ever worked in, male sports. And, when you take a look at stats like that, it just jumps out of the page, jumps off the page because it's like, oh my goodness, I didn't realize this was that much of an issue. So I appreciate you, answering that. We've talked about, your time with the coastal tsunami. Of course, it's not ending.
Mhm.
But you did just wrap up year number one. Was there a favorite memory from that season that jumps out at you?
Oh, that's a great question. The road trips were really fun, but I think my favorite memory was when we won our home opener.
Yeah.
Like when the buzzer went after the third period, like the whole bench erupted and the whole building just kind of, yeah, erupted, which was such a fun experience and memory that I'll hold for the rest of my life for sure.
It was a lot of fun. Talk to me a little bit about the off season. What does that look like for you? Because of course your time is not over yet. Obviously the season is when you're at your busiest, but the off season you still got stuff to do too.
Yeah, for sure. So this off season, I'm mostly working at Coastline Health and Performance and just trying to kind of keep busy. I know that Rick has some spring stuff that he wants me involved with, and maybe doing some off-season training with a few of the kind of up and coming U15, U11 groups. So we'll kind of see where that goes, but just kind of piecing it together for right now and getting as prepared as I can for next season. So,
Yeah, Rick, of course, Rick Hopper, the director of operations with the Coastal Tsunami. I'll ask you one more question about the team. Just give me a couple seconds here. Take some time to thank the fans for an incredible season because I know nobody's better than those fans in the PGHL.
yeah, it was incredible to kind of see the community support of the coastal tsunami. So, thank you so much to those, to the community and the fans. And yeah, hopefully we'll have a bit better season next season. But so stay tuned.
Lauren, my last question for you. What advice would you give to somebody, a young female, a young girl interested in doing exactly what you're doing right now?
That's a great question. I think my best advice is, follow your dreams and be confident in what you're doing, what you want to be doing.
That is Lauren Runge. She is the athletic therapist and kinesiologist on the Sunshine Coast with the Coastal Tsunami, Coastal Health as well. Lauren, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much for taking the time to speak with me today.
No worries. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us for another episode of Breakaway Coverage. I'm your host, John Carlo Nadeau. You can follow along with us on social media. We're dropping out an episode every single week. Thanks for sticking with us today. We'll be back next week.